Why should I go? You're the one who wants a divorce. Like I've said, I'm quite happy to forgive and forget and let everything get back to normal.
Michael, we've been through all this.
Well, if you're so sure you want a divorce, you go. I've spent my whole life working to pay for that house. I'm not going to give it up now to go and live in some squalid little bedsit. I can tell you that for nothing.
OK, Michael, so you'd like to be able to stay in the house. Helen, does that sound like a possibility to you? Would you consider moving out the family home instead?
I couldn't, and Michael knows it. We've agreed that the boys should stay with me, but they're coming up to exams, so there's no way they could change schools now. And I'd never be able to afford anywhere big enough for the three of us around here.
And Michael, what do you think about this?
Well, I wouldn't want them moved either. It's an important time for them. But I just don't see why I should be the one to have to start all over again, holed up in some squalid little bedsit. It's not like I could afford anything decent either. The kids will never want to come and see me then. And I wouldn't want them to see me like that anyway.
When Michael and Helen came to the first mediation meeting, they were at stalemate. Helen felt like her and Michael had grown apart over the years and decided she wanted a divorce. Now this comes as a bit of a shock to Michael. He was finding it difficult to accept, and this was making it hard to agree on the financial arrangements of the divorce. The biggest dilemma was what would happen to the family home. It was my job as a mediator to try and put an end to this stalemate by helping the couple think about all the options they had and agree on what would work best in the long run. Michael soon admitted he didn't want to put Helen and the boys through all the turmoil of moving. So once it was decided that Helen should stay put, I helped them to see that Michael didn't just have to cut his losses and walk away. There were other options. So then we explored the idea of Helen buying Michael's share of the home by remortgaging. Neither of them had considered this before.
A mortgage? But it would be so expensive. I wouldn't be able to afford it.
Well, don't forget you've got a full-time job now. You have your earnings from that. It means you're also entitled to tax credits. Plus you will be getting child support from Michael.
And what would happen if I lost my job? If I got made redundant or something? I've only been there for a few months. I'd probably be the first to go if they needed to get rid of people.
That's life, Helen. I've spent the last 20 years worrying about losing my job and not being able to pay the mortgage. But you've just got to get on with it, haven't you?
That was different. You were younger then. It just seems like the wrong time of life to be taking out a mortgage. I should be paying one off, not taking one out.
Well, if you did decide to remortgage, Helen, you'd still have a number of options in the long term. You could decide to stay in the house indefinitely and continue paying the mortgage, but equally you might want to sell up once your children have left home and move somewhere smaller to reduce your payments. But of course you shouldn't feel you have to agree to anything that you're not comfortable with. If it is something you'd consider, I'd recommend you go and speak to your mortgage advisor. They'd be able to give you a much clearer idea of how remortgaging the house would affect you financially. And you should also speak to your solicitor to get some legal advice before you commit to anything.
Well, I suppose I'll have to give it some thought.
By the final session, Helen had spoken to a mortgage advisor and her solicitor and decided to remortgage the house in her own name. So they both agreed that Michael would move out and buy somewhere new with his share of the money from the remortgage. Helen and the boys would stay in the house till the children left home. After that, Helen would probably sell the house and get somewhere smaller, so she wouldn't have to carry on paying a large mortgage. That way the children won't be disrupted, and neither of them would lose their footing on the property ladder. OK, well, that's it. The next step is for you both to get the agreement checked and made legally binding by your solicitor.
Yes. We'll get on to that this week.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate all your help.
Thanks. I don't know what would have happened if we hadn't come to mediation.
Well, I hope everything works out for you both.
I think I knew all along that I would have to move out, but I just couldn't accept it. I thought that would mean having to start all over again after all these years. We'd never even thought about Helen buying me out until we went to mediation. I'm just so relieved that I won't have to move to a bedsit. I'll be able to get a nice flat nearby, where the boys can actually come and stay with me.
It's such a huge relief that everything's finally sorted. In the end, it wasn't really that difficult, but we just got to the point where we couldn't think straight anymore. We just needed someone neutral to help us sort out what our options were. I'm glad that I can buy Michael out. I get my independence, he gets his money, and the kids won't be disrupted too much.
Could family mediation help you, a member of your family, or one of your friends sort out the practical side of their separation? To find out more, visit Advice Now's website www.advicenow.org.uk/family mediation, or give the National Family Mediation Helpline a call on 0845 6026 627. This podcast is part of a range of resources produced by Advice Now's Family Mediation campaign. Other materials available on the website include simple step-by-step guides, quizzes, podcasts, and a family mediation discussion forum. The Family Mediation campaign is funded by the Department for Constitutional Affairs and applies to England and Wales only.